sticking with me through the series as we talk about some challenging topics. We're always to the end of it, but I want to start today with some good news. The good news is the story that God tells through the Bible is one where Jesus ultimately fixes everything that's broken. So as we talk about challenging things, we can talk about them hopeful that there's a day coming where Jesus will fix all things that are broken. Every challenge that we examine will be fixed in the kingdom of heaven. All of the problems and challenges that worry us are temporary. On a personal level, as children of God, if your story isn't good, it isn't finished yet. So we come today as people of hope. We're excited about the future. Last week, we talked about truth and how difficult it is to figure out what is true in the culture that we live in. And today's message kind of follows on that. Today, we're talking about the polarization that exists. And the way in our culture, people are like opposite ends of the continuum, not talking to one another, not engaging one another very well. Lots of people are angry and upset. And we're going to be talking, we're going to be observing that as something that's happening in our world. And also I'll be suggesting some solutions to that. So I want to start with a couple of definitions. So the two words in the title of the message that I want to define. First is polarization. Polarization is moving further and further away from one another based on our emotional reactions, our ideology, and our personal beliefs. But we're dividing from one another. And you really see this on social media. That's where it really stands out, is if you look at what's happening in that area. But that's what polarization is, moving further and further away based on emotions, ideology, and personal belief, and refusing to get together in the middle. Not being able to meet in the middle. I think what's happening in our community, I mentioned Kroger's earlier, it's really encouraging for me to see what's happening in our community. As community leaders on the right and on the left, and in the city, and in the county, and in the state, are all meeting together to fix something and to try to do something that is good for our community. And yet, I think that happens locally, but it seems like in a broader perspective, it feels like that's not happening as much. We're not able to find middle ground in the middle. And then the second definition, outrage. Outrage is responding to differences with indignation and withdrawal. So not only are we're moving to opposite ends of the continuum, but we are just indignant. Our first reaction is anger, or we withdraw from people who see things differently than we do. So those are a couple of definitions that will be important as we move on. In terms of outrage, it's a lack of the ability to engage in civil discourse. So just be able to talk in a healthy, respectful way about things that we differ on. Let me give a big idea for today's message. The big idea is that in a culture of polarization and outrage, Christians are to be peacemakers and ministers of reconciliation. So I think that a lot of the challenges in our world are actually great opportunities for the church. Great opportunities for Christians to model something that I think our culture really needs. And that's the ability to stay engaged, the ability to be respectful as we talk about some of these challenges that are out there. 1 Corinthians 1, verses 16 and 17 says, God has given us the ministry of reconciliation. He has committed to us the message of reconciliation. It starts with a message of how people can be reconciled to God, but it continues with a message of how we can be reconciled with one another. Jesus called us to be peacemakers. He said that when we are peacemakers, people will actually say, look, there goes one of God's children. That person looks like God. They bear God's resemblance because they're out there making peace. With this ministry of making peace. So important to Jesus that Jesus said that if you're in the middle of the offering, you're getting ready to put your money in the offering plate, and you realize there's someone you need to reconcile with, Jesus, put your money down Go and be reconciled first, then come back and give your offering. As an example of the priority that Jesus places on Christians being people who reconcile. Being people who don't divide and go to opposite ends and be angry with one another, but people who value relationships. We need to take that spirit into our culture and pull people together. A great example in the New Testament is Peter and Mark. Peter and Mark were founders of the church. Peter was one of the disciples, was one of Jesus' 3 closest disciples. In the New Testament, there's this big fight. Peter and Mark had a big disagreement, and they call it a sharp dispute. It was an intense argument, and Peter said some nasty things about Mark, and they split up. And they went separate ways. And it took 20 years for them to be reconciled. But in that story, right in the middle of it, all the time there's Peter is befriending Paul, and he's befriending Mark, and he's encouraging them to be reconciled. So reconciliation is important. As Christians, we need to be promoting a culture of civility, respect, and engagement. One study by National Public Radio said 84% of people say that people are angrier than we were a generation ago. And some of this goes back to our message last week. Part of what we're angry about is misinformation or disinformation that is designed to make us angry. So there's an incentive out there for us to be angry, and that's part of this. We talked about that a lot last week. I think that cable news, talk radio, and social media are dividing forces rather than uniting forces, and I don't see that changing. I don't think that's going to go away. So I think this is an issue that is going to continue to be important for us this next decade, and maybe a lot longer than that. I'm going to give a couple more definitions. One is outrage talk. These are terms that I learned this week in working on a message. But there are people actually talk about something called outrage talk. Outrage talk is attacking people rather than their ideas. It's slippery slope arguments. It's belittling people, name-calling, and mockery are examples of outrage talk. Things that we do when we're outraged. And I think a lot of times what happens is when we can't win an argument on the facts, we try to win it with emotions and anger and outrage, and some of this stuff happens, and it's very prevalent. The other term is outrage porn. This has nothing to do with dirty pictures, okay? But there's actually this phrase that's going around called outrage porn. Outrage porn is a clickbait. Do you know what clickbait is? I know younger folks do, older people. Clickbait are images or statements that are out there on social media that you see it and it makes you angry, you want to click, it's like, yeah, that's right. You click on it and you share it with 2,000 of your best friends. So outrage porn is clickbait selected specifically to pander to our impulses to judge, punish, and get all riled up with righteous indignation. I've been following a little bit of this online this week, and I found maybe this just, hopefully this doesn't say something bad about the pastor, but I was watching people who were outraged about the halftime show at the Super Bowl. And there's all this, they're really mad about it, how horrible it was. We call them clickers in our house. Everyone else calls it the remote. We call it a clicker in our house. But on the remote, there's a button where you can change your channel. Did you guys realize that? So if you can actually switch the channel and watch something else. But there's some people who they're all riled up and they're angry and they're sharing stuff, and that's all going back and forth. But one way of thinking about outrage porn is images or statements that you might be tempted to share, and what's happening inside, yeah, take that. You hit share, boom, it's all the way out there. I have an example of outrage porn. No, I have an example of clickbait. But this is not outrage porn, this is clickbait. an image that's designed to be shared. I can't believe that this outrageous truth about green gummy bears will destroy our world. That's clickbait, okay? So you see this image, and you think, now what is this horrible news about green gummy bears? And it sucks you into the article, and it's out there on the internet. I don't know why I put that picture in there. I guess I just thought it was kind of interesting. So that's an example of non-controversial clickbait. One media organization did a study, and they studied Outrage, in the 10 top shows on cable news, the 10 top radio talk shows, and the 20 most widely read political blogs. And they're studying Outrage talk, and here's what they found out. For cable news political analysis episodes, so it's on cable news, and it's a political analysis piece, 100% of them included some form of outrage talk. Radio talk show episodes, 90% of them feature outrage talk, being upset and angry and outraged and wanting to withdraw and pull away. Blog entries, 80% include outrage talk. They studied the two most popular cable news stations. One is on the right, that everyone's familiar with. One is on the left, I think everyone's familiar with. And they found that outrage talk happens roughly, on average, every other minute during their news programming. So you take the two shows, one's really popular for people on the left, one's real popular for people on the right. Every other minute, there's something to be outraged about. But they do that because it stirs us up, and we want to watch it again. You know, I've been trying to. I switched my news media consumption. I switched to Associated Press because I've been told that it's one of the least biased. You know what? It's kind of boring. It's more exciting to read stuff that outrages me. But mere facts, and I don't get that angry about it. But there's an incentive why they do that. It's no wonder we all feel upset. We ought to all use our remotes in church. Ought to change to Arthur on PBS. So if you're mad at one of these stations on the right or the left, just switch the station, watch Arthur for a little bit, and everything's good. One thing that outrage talk or outrage porn does is it fuels the feeling that we are under attack in a life or death struggle over some issue. It fuels this idea that we're under attack, whichever side we're on, we're under attack. This is a life or death existential issue, and we get all upset. Again, it drives our ratings and loyalty, further divides our culture, and when it happens at church or among Christian leaders, it ruins our Christian message. We have to be very careful about this. I'm going to do what I've done in the last couple of messages. I'm going to begin with some practical application points, and that allows me to end with some biblical principles. Many times I turn that around, but I want to end with the Bible. So I want to suggest just some practical things that we can do as Christians, and then we will get to the biblical principles. First practical suggestion, disconnect from media that consistently makes you feel angry or outraged. It is not good to be in a continual state of outrage and just to always be upset. And if that's happening, check out different media sources and look for something that maybe is more objective that doesn't leave you always feeling angry. There are people who consume hours and hours of this type of news every day. I've got one of my very closest friends who was passed away a couple years ago. But he would watch news and listen to radio commentary all day long, every single day. His day just revolved around continual consumption of stuff that was making him angrier and angrier and angrier. So disconnect the things that make you feel angry or outraged. Don't share inflammatory posts or images. So if you use social media and there's some story that really gets you worked up, don't hit the share button. It's probably not entirely true. It's probably not helpful to share it, so don't share that stuff. Don't look for opportunities to be offended. I grew up in a world where the more easily offended you were, the more godly you supposedly were. So we found ways to be offended about just about everything. But don't be looking for things to be offended about. and looking for reasons to be upset about something that's going on out in our world. Don't express your beliefs as facts, is another practical suggestion. So I have an example of this from this week. Someone who is a distant connection of mine put something on, made a comment to me on Facebook that started to make me angry. It was kind of confrontational, and I started to respond when I was upset. And because I was working on this message, I became a little bit convicted. But man, if I'm going to talk with this on Sunday, I gotta work on this. So part of what I did is in the response, I said, I went back and changed it. I said, hey, so-and-so, it's good to hear from you. Haven't heard from you for a long time. Good to hear from you. Hope your family is okay. Thank you for sharing a different perspective on this issue. And then I went back to some of the things that I said that I just stated as facts. It's this way. It's this way. It's this way. And I just talked to them. I said, here's what I think. This is just my opinion. I may be wrong, but this is what I think. But part of what is fueling this outrage and polarization is we take things that are our opinions and we share it as though it's an objective fact, and you're stupid if you don't agree with it, or you're evil if you don't agree with it. But just make sure that we're saying, hey, this is what I believe, this is what I feel, this is what I think, but not stating it as though an intelligent person could help with disagreement. Next thing, don't post divisive stuff just to get affirmation. So I'm sure on social media, sometimes they're like a story or an image that makes people angry, and if you share it, 500 of your closest friends will say, yeah, that was good. Or hit the like button. Yeah, we all like this. We're upset with it. So don't share stuff just to get that adrenaline kick that we get when lots and lots of people push like and say, yeah, that's right, or attaboy. But don't share divisive stuff for that purpose. And then last thing is season our social media responses with grace. Always be looking for opportunities to be gracious if you're using social media. Always look for opportunities to be gentle. And I think there's a great Christian testimony in that. So little of that happens that I think when we model it, it's a very positive testimony of being great, especially if you're being attacked. Especially if someone is maybe attacking you or being really confrontational. If you can respond with grace then, that's a great way to live out what it means to follow Jesus. Now I want to share some biblical principles. Just 4 biblical principles that I want to share with you fairly quickly. Number 1, understand spiritual maturity in terms of Christian virtues. I think this is so important. But what does it mean to be a mature Christian? It means having a certain set of virtues. It doesn't mean that we have political opinions on one side or the other. It doesn't mean that we show up in church more frequently than other people do. It doesn't mean that we read our Bibles every day. I know people who read their Bibles every day and are not nice people. Now, all those things are good things. Read your Bibles is a good thing to do, but that's not a measure of spiritual maturity. The New Testament provides a list of virtues that are the true test of Christian identity. What is a Christian? Galatians 5:22-26 says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against these things there is no law. Those who belong to Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking and envying each other. Colossians 3, verses 12-17 says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion and with kindness, with humility, gentleness, patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if anyone has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all of these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Our response to anything that is polarizing or that sparks outrage should be gentleness, compassion, humility, patience. We need to bear with one another. We need to love one another. Along with the list of virtues, we are told to walk in step with the Holy Spirit and to avoid being conceited, to make every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. We are to forgive each other and bear with each other. And I've been thinking lately, just examining my own life and how I have responded to people who have upset me. It's almost 100% through social media where it happens. But I have been examining my own heart in ways that I've pulled away from people who are dear friends of mine because I have been upset with them. And I need to be patient, and I need to be gentle. Interesting that one observation I want to make. We don't have to agree on political or controversial issues to stay unified. So we don't have to agree on, we can be a unified church with lots of different opinions, and even opposite opinions on something. I want to give you an example of that. A great example is the disciples. Jesus is putting together a team of people to help start the church. His closest associates, I'm going to tell you about two of them. One is he picked a guy named Judas the Zealot. This is not Judas Iscariot. There are two Judases. This is not the one who betrayed Christ or another guy. He was named Judas the Zealot. Now, zealots were a group of people who wanted to overthrow the Roman government by acts of guerrilla violence. They wanted to kill the Romans. So you've got Judas the Zealot, who's a part of this political group that wants to kill the Romans and drive the Romans out of power. And then you've got Matthew. Matthew collected taxes for the Romans. So you got these two guys. One wants to kill the Romans, the other was collecting taxes for the Romans, and they got along. And why did they get along? They got along because they were focused on Jesus. They allowed Jesus to be the center, and their differences began to disappear. Their lives were changed as they met in the middle around Jesus. So that's the first point. The second point is overlook the offenses of those you love. 1 Peter 4, verse 8 and 9 says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. And over all of these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. I found in thinking back, examining my life, and again, a lot of it goes back to social media. So if you're not on social media, you're probably better off than everyone. But I found there are people who I really love. They are really good friends. But because of what they posted, I pulled away from them, and I need to let love overlook that. I need to stay in friendship with people and not separate from people, but allow a love for them to change the way that I react to things that I might strongly disagree with, or things that evoke an emotional reaction. Colossians 3, verse 14, over all of these virtues, put on love, which binds them together in perfect unity. Another suggestion, so third biblical suggestion, and I don't have I guess every Bible verse that talks about humility supports this, but practice intellectual and theological humility. And I found there's a Christianity Today article that the title was, What Psychology Offers Christians Amid Political Polarization. I found this article on Christianity Today about what Christians can learn from psychology. And it was all about this idea of intellectual and theological humility. Now, a fancy way of saying, those are big fancy words, sounds pretty impressive. That's a fancy way of saying, remember that sometimes we're wrong. That's what that's all about. That's what theological and intellectual humility is. It's realizing, I feel really strongly about this, but I also might be wrong. I've been wrong before. There are issues that I used to feel very strongly about that now I feel differently about. So this idea of intellectual and theological humility is realizing that sometimes we we are wrong. Richard Mount, who they were referring to in the article, he was at one time president of Florida Theological Seminary, called Christians what he called convicted civility. He's saying what we need to practice is convicted civility. We need to stand for things that are true, but to do it in a way that's very gentle and very gracious and very humble. Doesn't mean that we never have an opinion different. Doesn't mean we never challenge the culture. But be gentle. Be convicted, but be civil. And that is so important. And he offered a couple of suggestions. He said this means asking people what they believe rather than telling them what they believe, or telling them they're wrong. So someone posts something that is making us angry. Instead of responding in a real angry way, say, tell me why you believe. Help me understand why you believe that. Explain to me what you're thinking, rather than being drawn into a Facebook stack. Or say back, is this a good way to describe your view? And repeat back what you think they're hearing. Can you help me understand what you believe? That's convicted civility. Here's the last one. Last thing that helps us in this culture of polarization and outrage, let Jesus rule our hearts and our speech. Let Jesus rule our hearts and our speech. Colossians 3, verses 15 through 17. Let the peace of Jesus rule in your hearts. Since as members of one body you are called to peace. Be thankful. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom, through psalms and hymns and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do, whether it is in word or whether it is in deed, do it all with the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through when Jesus rules in our hearts, we love our enemies. When Jesus rules in our hearts, we forgive 70 times 7. When Jesus rules in our hearts, we turn the other cheek and we go the extra mile. And when Jesus rules in our hearts, we will be reconciled. We will be peacemakers. And instead of polarizers, we will be peacemakers instead of polarizers. We will replace outrage with outstretched arms. Let me close with Father, I thank you for this time for us to think about how we can be salt and light in our culture. How we can behave in ways that will draw people to Jesus. And Lord, I pray that you would help us to interact in ways that reconcile people. Lord, help us to do that in our real life, face-to-face relationships, and help us to do that in social media relationships. But to be people who communicate in ways that reconcile. Father, I pray you would help us to be peacemakers. Lord, help us to live so that when people see us, they'll say, look, that person must be God's child. I can tell because he looks just like him. Help us to be people who make peace. Father, we pray for our world. Father, we long to be a part of the world where neighbors stay connected and where folks love one another, where people are kind to one another. And Father, we look forward to the kingdom of heaven where that will always be true. Father, work in our hearts and lives to make us models of grace, compassion, and gentleness. We ask this in Jesus' beautiful name.